ורק שבתחילת הדרך צריך כל מחנך להיות מבחינה מסוימת גם שוטר שמאלץ ומכריח. In the beginning of the way, of course, to a certain degree, every person, every mechanech, every parent has to be a policeman to make sure that everybody's going to listen. אבל זה החלק אינו החינוך עצמי, אלא כהקדמה ומבוא לחינוך. That's not chinuch, that's preparation. And that's what he's saying. People think that that's where it ends. He's saying that's only where chinuch begins. Ulefi ze hari yitachen. According to this, it's very possible. She'adam hayadua k'mechanech me'ula. There could be a person that has a reputation of being a wonderful, excellent mechanech. Oy makayim chinuch, mekayim chinuch hamitztayer klape chutz, k'mekayim chinuch idoloi b'yoser. Could be a school, an institution that has a reputation of being an amazing, ideal school. By forcing compliance, by having a tough hand. Everybody's complying, everybody's doing orderly. Ulamita shel davar, says the Nesivas Shalom, but emistic really, ein ze b'chlal makam chinuch. It's not even a place of chinuch. Ba'anashav mamalam rak tafkid shitur b'chinuch v'sulai. And the people working there and the staff are just actually, all they're doing is they have the role of policemen. And you see them. Sometimes you see the Rebbe saying, okay, everybody line up. No, let it. And they line up, go outside, and then the manal is there herding in the sheep, and nobody's allowed to go out, and nobody's allowed to move. And they say, look, 800 kids can go from the classroom through the hallways into the lunchroom, and it's behaved, and it's wonderful. Could be, but that's not chinuch. Right? You could do that with animals also. You could teach them how to stay and behave. So the animals could be trained. So the behavior, it's necessary because you're never going to get to the other stuff without it. But that's not the end goal. That's just the beginning. There's also parents. Their behavior, and they're busy with the whole range of time that they're dealing with chinuch for 20, 30 years. Parents are mechanech their children, and they're only doing it rak b'tafkitei shitur. The whole tafkid, their whole, how do you say tafkid? Job that they have, that they think that they have, is to be a policeman. Get it to bed, don't go to bed, telling people, criticizing, and getting people to behave properly. They have no idea. They're oblivious to the idea of what they were supposed to do, like we said from the Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama, about instilling higher values into the child. Ein lahem shum musag. They look at you, don't even know what you're talking about. So what are you talking about? I have 8 kids, I had to process them. They each came home, and they ate. It's a lot of work. And they did their homework, right? And they had to deal with each one's mishagasin. They each had to get a bath, they each had to get a pajamas, and each had to be in bed. When that is over, it's like, wow, it's a lot of work. He says, yes, but they don't even realize that there was a whole part of instilling Jewish values into the child that they didn't even think of. They're unable, b'chlal, ein lahem yad, b'ftayach tzlilim adinim she'achanich chayav likloit, b'chelkei nishmasei zu l'mala mizu, u'chetoitza mikach nishem mefager ruchni. They're unable to open up the child. The child is being forced to do everything. Even if he does it, he doesn't have that relationship. So those channels are not even opened up at all for the child to receive finer elements of spiritual growth, and therefore the child remains spiritually stunted. Mefager ruchni. He's mentally retarded, but not mentally retarded, spiritually retarded. In issues of ruach, in nefesh, ruach, and neshama. Why? Because nobody trained the school or the parents that, yeah, of course he's got to do all of that stuff. But that's only to prepare him to be able so you can imbue in him lessons in life. Reb Chaim Kanievsky says he remembers that every Friday night, before the lights went off and they wouldn't learn by the candle, and it was by Bein Hashmashis, something like that, the stipler would take him and his brothers, go for walks, and he used to tell them, like a long time, walks of Sipurei Tzadikim. Sipurei Tzadikim, when you tell stories of Tzadikim, it allows the child to see that there's a hecherkeit, there's another way to live, there are things that are more valuable than just day-to-day survival. We have to read stories to them. So yeah, of course, all the other stuff still has to happen. And it's a lot of work to do. But if we don't do the other parts of educating and uplifting the nefesh, ruach, and neshama, then they're stunted, which we're seeing a lot of. The student that we didn't open up these channels, Nisher Balmum Ruchni Ba'ashmas Mechanchov. He remains a Balmum Ruchni, spiritually he has a mum, and it's the parents, the Mechanchim, the parents, the teacher's fault. Why did they do that? Why didn't they give the right chinuch? Either they weren't mechanachim, maybe they also didn't get that chinuch. A big rule in chinuch. If the mechanech didn't get this in his upbringing, he only got the shoter tov. He only got the make your bed, do your thing, and go to school. And he only got that chinuch. Behave, open up, close, recess, crayons, chumash, taisus. And he didn't get the nefesh, ruach, and neshama, he can't give it over. Because, klal gadol b'chinuch, you can't give over something that you don't have. We have a lot of parents that never got hugs. And I tell them, your kid is dying, your kid needs hugs. And they can't do it. Can't give it over because they didn't get it. A lot of parents never got love from their parents because we're still trying to recover from the Holocaust. And they can't give it over properly to their children. So the answer for that is that you have to develop yourself to have these things, which can be done even as an adult, so that way you have what to give over to the child. Just like this is negea for the chinuch of midas tayvos, that in order to give over good midas, you have to have good midas. Ahavas hazulas, to love other people, care about other people. V'akiras anechius v'yeshus, and not caring so much about yourself, not being self-centered. Just like with all of these things, this mechanech can be mamish a gadol b'torah in Yer Shemayim. But he never uprooted his bad character from himself. Or when he was a kid, they didn't work on him in that, so he's a brain, he's a masmid, he can connect, he knows how to learn. Even if this guy comes, he gives a great shiur on midas tayvos, but he doesn't have it. He doesn't have it. He doesn't. So what happens is his ashpa is extremely insignificant. Think about, like we had in our time, we had people like Rav Pam. You know Rav Pam, when he spoke about midos, when he spoke about giving up, you were able to accept it. You looked at him, you saw he lived it. So if you have somebody else who never wasn't trained in that or didn't accomplish that, he can give the same shiur. Ineffective. Someone's a balgaiva on his personal time, and this is spiritually, even if the kids don't know about it, he can't give it over. The kids don't buy it. You can't give over something to somebody that you yourself didn't master, that it's not emes. V'hu, kedugmas adam amadaber l'nyani nikayin sheba'atzmei ena oyev nikayin. It's like someone who speaks about the importance of being clean, but he himself is a slob. Shekal devar of noiflam al oznayim atumois. Whatever he says, his words fall on deaf ears, closed ears. Because internally he himself doesn't believe what he's saying. Or another example, he personally on his level doesn't have proper Yiras Shamayim, and he's preaching Yiras Shamayim. No way. It's not going to happen, and the kids are not going to buy it. You can't give over something if you don't have it yourself. This is really big, because when a Rebbe is in a classroom with 30 kids and he wants them to be good, so the first step he has to work on himself to have so much that it overflows and that they could be makabel from him. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. And parents as well. You know, everybody knows the famous things that their parents talking in shul and they tell their kids, no. That's obvious hypocrisy. I'm talking about even stuff that your kid doesn't see. That you want them to have that good midah, or that you're a shemayim, or that level. If you internally didn't work on yourself, you don't have that, you can't give it over to them. They're hearing words, but their nefesh, ruach, and neshama, which is sensitive to it, is not accepting it. You can't affect change in them. Maybe on the outer levels, on the outer layer, but not internally. The nefesh, ruach, and neshama doesn't accept words from somebody who's not real. Ucha'amor. Like we said, Hari l'chol tchum, for each stage of the journey, yesh es ha'chinuch ha'miyuchad hamat'im loi. The special for a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old. It's different stages that is fitting, unique educational strategy that's fitting for this specific child in this specific stage. V'choivas ha'mechanech ha'amiti. And the task of a true educator is lahadlik b'chol yeled es ner Hashem nishmas adam, to ignite the godly spark that is in his soul. Every child has that. Until his internal flame can exist on its own. When you do that, and you light the kid up, you don't have to have the same arguments year after year after year. Come on already, do this already, behave this already, why aren't you singing, why aren't you that? You turn them on. That's the trick of chinuch. The trick of chinuch is to turn on the child to want what you want. So you're not schlepping it. Once a kid wants what you want, it's easy. You can give him a little this, a little advice, how to get there, because you're going in the same direction. You have to get the child to be on your bandwagon, you have to be on his, you have to mix it up together, that you are lighting him up on the inside, that he wants what you want. The kid's born at 0, he doesn't know what he wants. By the time he's 5, on that level of a 5-year-old, he should want the direction that you've been imbuing into him. Between 5 and 10, you have a chance to impress upon him what's important in life. We're not talking about trauma now, we're not talking about abuse, we're not talking about kids who get derailed. We're talking about regular chinuch. Instilling in them the values that are important for the nefesh, ruach, and neshama.